So thank you all for making those introductions. I mean, to me, that is, I've got this whole slide deck, but the important part of networking, right, is actually get to know other people. And that is the key part. I mean, I always have this big introduction slide about who I am and what I do. And most of you probably know me because you've either seen me on Twitter or you've met me in person, or I have been in a user group meeting with you. But when JB approached me about this and we started talking and she wanted to do this series, and I never set out to network. That was never my goal. That wasn't my plan, right? And so as I started putting together my thoughts and how I could share with you all why we should network, how to network, the tips and tricks that go with that, it was really interesting to realize several different things. So there have been some particularly influential books that I have read. And for all you said, like you like to read books, I would encourage you. Zig Ziglar, Stu's probably the only person old enough to remember who he was besides me. When I was in university, a professor had us read Secrets of Closing the Sale. And I was never going to be a salesperson. In 1979, when I started university, I was told that I should go into computer science because, the grades that I made and the testing that I did, and that was what I should do. And I realized that they were teaching me to be a developer, to be a programmer, and that was nothing. So I swapped to marketing and read this book. And Zig Ziglar, that book, even though I still didn't want to do sales, was super important because he really explained that a sale, that marketing, in my imagination too, is a win-win situation for everyone, right? So I love this quote from him about you can get everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And so anytime that I talk to a potential customer, my first words out of my mouth are always, how can I help you? Not buy my product, but what is the problem you have and how can I help you solve that problem? And you'd be amazed the friends that I have made from customers, right? Because they've come to me with a problem and we've been able to solve it. Another influential person, another influential book that I've read, and if you haven't read this, especially, I don't care if you're male or female, right? Sally Krawcheck, if you got to see her speak at Dreamforce, I actually was a fan of hers before she got involved with Salesforce. But she really brought home the idea to me that one of the reasons that it's more difficult for underrepresented voices to rise in the ranks, to network, to gather together, is because we don't have the good old boys club, right? I don't know if that's a term that's familiar to you, but it dawned on me as we were talking about 2020 and the insanity of the pandemic, and universities like Harvard and Yale and Cornell and all those folks thinking, are we going to just do virtual school? And why would they not do virtual school? And I realized at that point that that's why you pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to one of those Ivy League colleges. Not because the education is so much better, but because you're going to become friends with and network with the people that are going to help you through the rest of your career. And of course, we are very lucky in the Salesforce ecosystem that we have that laid out a little bit for us already, right? If you haven't read, and one more, and I love to read, you all can tell, Mark Benioff's book, Trailblazer, that we got at Dreamforce last year, and I read it before we got it at Dreamforce. But to me, I go back to this specific quote again and again and again. And Marissa, this is where to me, that work-life integration comes in, right? Because not just serving the interest of all stakeholders is good for the soul, it's good for business. And I would almost swap that around, not just because it's good for business, but because it's good for my soul to be able to help people throughout the ecosystem, whether they're my customers, whether they are people that I've met online. I'm encouraged by them, and I can encourage them. So I want to share with you, my husband laughs at me, and I hope this will kind of bring this point home, but the real reason that I like to network is because people are fascinating to me. Let's see if we can get this to play so you can actually hear it. But
My stars, where did you ever get that awful hairdo? It doesn't become you at all. Here, for goodness sake, let me fix it up. How stringy and messy it is. What a shame. Such an interesting monster, too. My stars, if an interesting monster can't have an interesting hairdo, then I don't know what things are coming to. In my business, you meet so many interesting people. Bobby pins, please. But the most interesting ones are the monsters. Oh, dear, that'll never stay. We'll just...
so he laughs because I will tell him I'll come into his office and I'm like, oh, I just met the most interesting person. And I'm sure that'll be our conversation after this meeting today. And I know we spent, 25 minutes introducing each other, ourselves to each other. But how interesting. I mean, I can't wait. JB needs to write a book. And you can bet that from now on, every time I talk to her, I'm going to encourage her, have you put any of that writing down? We can do that. We can self-publish that on Amazon, right?
I need that. I need that, Melissa, or else I keep postponing.
I mean, the most interesting people. And so he laughs at me because I said that. But that is really, when we talk about being genuine, when we talk about, making those contacts and networking with people and finding out about them, it's all well and good to know, are they an administrator? Are they a developer? Do they work for a partner? Do they work for a company? But to me, that's their job. That's not who they are, right? And so that genuine interest, we did a little bit of a test one day to introduce people or to pick out people in a crowd, right? And so if you were describing someone, if I were introducing someone, say, and I'll pick on Stu, but rather than say, this is Stu and he's from Minnesota and, he's tall. That's not who Stu is, right? Stu is a traveler. Stu is a learner. Stu, that's who he is. And so to be able to introduce people without using any physical attributes and to actually use those attributes of who they are. You'll see sometimes my brilliant, beautiful, bold hashtag. And that's the way I think about people who are willing to reach out and to network and to get to know other people. Let's see if I can get.
My stars. Where did you...
I don't want to do him again. So I did this sort of in the version of a V2 mom, right? With that vision being make new friends, because that literally was the edict that my partners and I, as we were talking last year and trying to figure out what we needed to do next in our business and how to get things going. And literally that was my job description, make new friends. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven because I do love people and people are fascinating and to get out and get to know people. But it takes that genuine interest in others to build those relationships and then to broaden your sphere, right? So of all the things that have happened during the pandemic, that has probably been the biggest plus. I started a little nonprofit user group here in Decatur, Alabama. I don't know if there's anybody in Decatur, Alabama who actually uses Salesforce for nonprofits, but I didn't know what else to do because I was so hungry for that interaction. And it never really took off until March, beginning of April, when everybody went into lockdown. We couldn't go anywhere. Everything was canceled. 3 days before I was supposed to leave for London to go speak at London's Calling, everything just came to a screeching halt. So I spun up the nonprofit virtual social hour on Thursday mornings at 11. And we have done that every single week since the beginning of April. And I have met people from all over the world. I have had folks come who work with nonprofits. who don't work with nonprofits, who are interested in nonprofits. In fact, out of that little group is where we got started to do nonprofit dreaming. So that's been an exciting adventure, places that I wouldn't normally get to go. I met Akash Mishra, who leads the nonprofit user group in New Delhi, India. And he's never been to the US, and I've never been to India. I would still like to go. But he and I are working together on nonprofit dreaming. And it's because of the pandemic and because of being able to get online together like that, that we've been able to do it. So that brings us to, I think we all are fairly comfortable with why we need to network, but how to actually do it, right? What's our action plan? What are we going to do? So the first thing I would encourage you is not to assume anything. Don't assume that you don't belong to a group. You see this big picture here. This was Dreamforce 2018, and I'm not in that picture because I thought I had to join Ladies Be Architects, and join the WIT Dev group. And if you know anything about either of those groups of ladies, you know that that is not the case. I mean, you just are a part of, right? And I begged Gemma and help me.
Susanna?
Charlie.
Charlie.
No, Charlie. Oh, all of a sudden, just total, complete brain dead, to make their picture with me, right? Because I was such a fangirl, and I didn't feel worthy to belong to this group. I hadn't gotten my platform developer certification. I still don't have my platform developer certification. That's another thing altogether. I am not a developer, but don't assume that you don't belong. If they ask you to be in the picture, be in the picture, be a part of. That was a huge mistake that I made, and I missed out on a lot because I didn't understand that there wasn't a formal process that you went through to be a part of that group, right? Show up. If you know Charlie Isaacs, I know he is such a nut, and I see JB laughing. I love him. And let me tell you the reason that I love him. I was lucky enough because someone introduced me to the group of ladies who was starting the very first Witness Success. And they asked me if I would like to help. And I said, yes. And I'd never done anything with a conference before except spoken at one. And so I got to help with that. I went, and that's where I met Charlie Isaacs. And Charlie was Charlie. And he told me, he said, if you ever need anything, here's my card, call me, email me, and let me know what you need. So a couple of months later, I was working on my college degree, actually, and writing a paper, and I really needed a quote about something related to IoT, completely unrelated to nonprofits, not anything in my sphere of work. And I emailed Charlie, and he said, of course, let's set up 15 minutes, put it on my calendar, and we'll do it. And so to me, someone of his level in Salesforce, someone, with his experience, he had nothing to gain by helping me and made such a difference. I made an A on the paper, I thanked him profusely, and I will always be a devotee of his because he took that 15 minutes to spend some time with me and help me with a project. I never would have met him if I hadn't shown up, at that particular conference. Well, I say I never would have met him, but, because I was there, I did. Because I went to the cigar party that is at the end of Dreamforce, that, I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's not one of those private things. It's just people don't hear about it necessarily. Went to that, met Johan Karlstein, who is a phenomenal Salesforce developer architect in Sweden, and spent, an hour talking to him, learning so many things from him and about him. So showing up is important. And encourage someone else. There are so many ways that you can encourage other people. And that doesn't mean that you have to be an expert. There is a Trailblazer mentorship program. And at the end of the slide deck, I've got the links to be able to sign up for that. Pep Up Tech is always looking for volunteers to help teach their Pep Up Tech students. If you get involved with Pep Up Tech, you'll have an entire network of new friends. You know, so many young people who are new to the ecosystem, but if you've watched them, each of them are having meteoric rises throughout the ecosystem. And today they may be the newbie, but 2 years from now, they may be somewhere you'd like to be, right? Plus, they're just really great people. It doesn't even have to be a formal mentorship program. I presented on Einstein Search. It was just a tiny little, 2 or 3 minute blurb that I had done in a Salesforce presentation. Someone from the App Exchange or the Lightning Champions program, someone asked me if I would do that. And I said, sure, why not? And I did. And Chrissy Ramsey saw that, loved it, invited me to present at their user group meeting. And then when we did Uniting Minds summer camp, I told Chrissy, I said, why don't you submit to present on Einstein Search? You love it so much. She's like, I've never presented before. I was like, so do it. And so she submitted and she was accepted. And I told her, I said, she's like, thank you. I said, no, I didn't do it. They were anonymous. Nobody knew who the presentations were. Yours was selected by the entire group. It wasn't just me, but she was just amazed and astounded. And then she did a phenomenal job. Presented, was a natural. I don't know if anybody got to come and see it, but so now she's over that hurdle, right? She's a presenter. And that wasn't because I had any expertise. It was just because I encouraged her. In fact, I say I bullied her. I'm bad to do that. But everybody needs that champion. And no matter what you can be that champion. So lots of tips and tricks, right? Sticker mail swap. I don't know if you've seen anything about this. Is that Allie Lawler, Stu, that does that? And I forget, yeah. And so this is not, you don't have to talk to other people. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to do anything. Swap stickers with people, send a note, right? Ohana pairs. And what a great fun. Used to be Secret Ohana. And I forgot to wear my, my earrings. I love so much. They're my favorite this time of year because they're little candy corn earrings, right? Affinity groups. Do you know about Food Force? And this is my hashtag. And I didn't, this was accidental. I didn't really mean to do that, but I love to cook. I grew up in the South. Everything is all about food. And come to find out, everybody is all about food, right? No matter where you're from. That's when you come together as a family and friends and to eat. And that's one of the things I'm missing most right now during the lockdown is being able to do that with family and friends, right? Sit down and eat together. Knit Force. Judy Son has a group that meets on Sunday afternoon. If you knit or crochet, it's like I started saying old ladies club, but it's not because Erin Crossman is in that group. And they just sit and knit and crochet and talk. And it's just such a great time. Fit Force, which obviously I need to be a part of and I'm not, but, and I think that is Melinda Smith that kind of, spearheads that. So there's something out there to get involved, right? Back when we could actually go places and do things, in real life, sit at a table where you don't know anyone. This is the thing that I tell my teammates every time we go to a conference. I'm like, I don't want to see you at the conference. I work with you every day. I know you. Divide and conquer. Go talk to people, sit with people, be with people that we don't know, right? Sit with someone who's sitting alone. Vanessa Villagomez, who is an amazing and astounding young woman. That's how I met her. She was, again, at Witness Success, sitting by herself at a table at lunch. And I just went over and I said, may I sit with you? And we've really become the most incredible of friends. Be aware of commonalities, right? So that 6 degrees of separation, something you all said, every single one of you today struck a chord in me. I identify with Marissa and her her idea of work-life integration. I've never been to Nebraska. I love the idea of the children's book. I love to read. I get wound up and talk very, very, very fast. And I love Jason's ideas. There's always something that we have in common, no matter how far separated we are, right? And then let people know what is important to you. That's kind of how a brand becomes. And I said, for example, bacon. If I say bacon, who in the Salesforce ecosystem do you think of? Eric Dresden.
Eric.
Exactly. So,
And
yeah, go ahead, Stu.
Melissa, so yes, you're right about the sticker swap. So that is Allie up here, and then she's very good at communicating about that. But there's other affinity groups, and it would be really hard to name them all, but I know that there's a pet force for folks that talk about their cats and such, and I think Dana Hall has participated in that because I think she's been involved in animal stuff. And then there's also
Ohana.
Farah talked about reading. I know that there's book clubs in the community. I don't know exactly how to hook up to them, but I know I've seen Twitter comments in there about folks getting together for book clubs. And there are, because my son has got me into gaming recently with things like the Xbox and Fortnite. There is a Fortnite Force Night. There's a group like that the developer groups. Who is the godfather of developers? I forget. Anyway, he started that up, and then there's another one. Gamers. So Brian Kwong and that group does
Dungeons
and Dragons gaming. Yeah, and they do that online, and they every now and then will do donations for different groups to support that. So anything that you are interested in and is a hobby and you want to connect with other people, talk about it in the community, and somebody is going to want to do that with you. I guarantee.
Yep, you're exactly right. And that's the thing. And I think right now, in fact, that's one of the things we'll talk about is how to do it as an introvert, right? So no matter, you don't even have to really put yourself out there in this virtual world to make that happen, right? To meet those people and make that affinity. One last thing I'll say on tips and tricks is Salesforce News. So even Salesforce gives you those options. Having grown up in the South, I learned early on that you write thank you notes for everything, handwritten thank you notes. It's the best snail mail in the world. And that's why the sticker swap is such a big deal, right? And so if you have not implemented Salesforce News in your system, do that, because you'll be amazed at the things that Einstein finds articles on based on what you're working on in Salesforce at that given point in time. So I find things like there's a new executive director at the United Way of the Bay Area, and they're a customer of ours, and I'll send my friend a note, congratulations, I hear that you all have a new executive director. Just those little follow-ups with people to check in on their lives, right? What's happening in their world, what's going on. So I know the biggest thing that I hear, I can't network, I'm an introvert. I don't like to talk to people. I'm really shy. My mother was an incredibly shy person. I got all my personality from my dad and none from my mother. And she would tell you, when my daughter was born 18 years ago, my mom said, I hope she's not shy because you miss so much if you're shy, right? I'm not an introvert, but that doesn't mean that you can't network, because especially between social media and the pandemic, at this point in time, this is the best time ever for folks who are not comfortable speaking publicly or, really putting themselves out there. The example I'll give you, there's a young man named Alex who lives in Indiana, and he and I chatted back and forth on Twitter. We had some common interest, things that In fact, he's very involved in Food Force and what we're doing there, and even has a food blog, right? And when we finally talked one day in a meeting like this, he's incredibly shy. He said, I hate to talk out loud in a group. I'm like, really? I mean, I would have never guessed, because of course I got to know him just from Twitter and really felt like we cemented a friendship that transcended that extrovert, introvert. If I'd run into him at Dreamforce, I might not have gotten to know him like I did online. So he's very interactive, and he shows up, and he's a part of, when we have Food Force meetings or when we have virtual social hour. He doesn't always speak. Sometimes he sits with his camera off, but he's there, and he's supportive. So just, again, that showing up, even if you don't want to actively participate, there are enough loud, obnoxious people like me that will make up for anything you don't say, right? So as an extrovert, that is something that I try and do, is to help folks speak up, though, if they want to. I never want to put pressure on, but I will call you by name and say, hey, what do you think? That's part of my Am I on Mute presentation that I've done before. So start somewhere, right? The other thing that I hear from folks is, I don't know how to network. I don't know anybody. Well, start with one group. I mean, now today, 8 people that you may not have known yesterday, right? Follow them on Twitter, follow them on LinkedIn, look and cruise for the next time that they're going to be presenting. I mean, I know Stu presents, and JB presents, and Marisa presents, and look out there and see what's going on. Food Force, like I say, was just such a phenomena. I don't even know how that happened. It was just something, somebody cooked something one day and I tagged it with a hashtag. And from there, App Exchange highlighted us in the App Exchange magazine this last month. And so now we're working on a website that we hope will be up. Mike DeMaria, if you don't know him, and who knew the man makes his own pasta? I mean, oh my goodness, that's fascinating to me. And he wrote the little app, and I'm working on the website, and we want people to be able to submit their recipes and share them back out with other members of the Trailblazer community, and hopefully someday to put together a Trailblazer cookbook that we can sell and donate the funds to children's hunger programs. So that came out of nowhere, just common interest. And that has led to more networking and more networking and more networking. Eric Dreschfield, another thing, besides being known for bacon, he was the first person that I had ever met in real life that had more than 10,000 followers on Twitter. And I was and now he has over 14,000. And so you see now I'm almost up to 4,000 followers. And to me, that was huge. I didn't know anybody on Twitter. Well, even although I joined in 2010, I didn't use it until probably 4 years ago. And suddenly now I know all these people. Nonprofit Dreaming is something that we're working on. And that all came out of networking. I never had the network to do that before. So don't let any of these obstacles hold you back from networking, right? Being an introvert is not an obstacle. Not knowing anyone is not an obstacle. You know me. All my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my everything is Melissa Hill Dees. That's the only box I fit into. You may have another blank that the reason that you can't network, whatever it is, none of those are ones that you can't overcome. So in the spirit of the V2 Mom, right? How has networking helped, and what have I done with that? So my first measure was growth, personal growth, professional growth. I was invited to be on the board of Amplify, which was huge for me to be able to make a difference in helping underrepresented voices be heard. I was invited to teach with Pep Up Tech this summer, and I taught the nonprofit cloud consulting class that they did. Talk about networking. In fact, I did that specifically for that purpose. I want to know the young up and coming talent because I want to be able to hire them first before one of the big companies snatches them up, right? And then I get these invitations to speak. So JB Collins saying, please come speak. Verlene Singh asked me to be on a panel. I love to be able to do that. Learning, that's a huge measure for me. And every time I teach, talk, today I learned so much from you all. And so every time I learn more, I realize how much I don't know and how much more I want to learn. And then those deeper relationships. So not just professionally, which some of them are, but some of the networking that I have done has become really dear, close friends. Gemma Blizzard is a great example. When my family and I went to Europe last summer, my husband and my daughter, she invited us to come and stay with her in her home for a couple of days. And it was wonderful. We got to do laundry. We got to hang out. It was, it was a wonderful thing. And so that's always my test, right? If you're really a friend or not, have you been to my house? And that's what kills me right now, that I can't have people in and cook for them. So from a measure standpoint, that vision of make new friends. And if you were in scouting, the make new friends, but keep the old, one is silver and the other's gold. I really believe that is true. So I appreciate you all being my guinea pigs today on this first effort at talking about networking and what that looks like. Please feel free to connect with me. I'll share the slide deck out with you. There are resources here. There is an events calendar I was going to show you. I mean, to me, show up. I mean, look at this. Day in and day out, if you could spend all your time going to events, how many people you would meet and what kind of networking could you do? And thank you. Thank you, JB.
This is so wonderful, Melissa. I never knew that these many groups exist. I am a part of some of the groups, and I'm extremely fortunate to be part of the Ohana pairs, the secret Ohana group. That's how I came to know you and how strong our relation turned into. And I came to know many wonderful friends through that program. And whenever I have some time, I make sure that I attend these meetups. So I know I have a question here, Melissa. So we are all time limited, and it's very hard with the family, work, and kids and other stuff at home. It's hard to find time to attend at least a few of them. Do you suggest anything, how we can manage that, how we can still be involved?
Well, and so I guess I am super lucky because my daughter's 18 now, so she, of course, doesn't require my time. She requires my money, but not my time. And so I get, that a lot. And I have a very supportive husband because I am working on my MBA now, and I don't get to attend as many things as I would like to, but I think prioritizing. So it's a little bit like exercise, right? So if you're a good exerciser, you probably do 30 minutes a day. So think if you spent 30 minutes a day if you spent 15 minutes a day, write one card, send one email, send one text a day to say, hey, how are you? That consistency, right? And I'm not a very consistent person either, but that seems to be, Sandy Zellner is a good example. She and I got to be really good friends over a couple of different events, and I never get to see her now, and she doesn't attend a lot of these events. And so about once a week, I'll just text and check in on her and say, hey, how are things going? It doesn't take, if you're sitting in the car pickup line waiting, for the kids, or having your cup of coffee in the morning. So just those little bits and pieces are the easy way to do it, I think. And it builds.
Actually, and one tip to add to that, everyone here is a good book reader. I recommend the ebook for this because I put so many sticky notes in the book, and now I don't know where to find all the different tips in there. It's such a great book. The book's called, very handy, very practical, Switch: How to Change When Change is Hard. So I think that's good for personal and for the professional work that we have to do, overseeing users and teams, that change management.
Yep.
So and also for the community as well. You know, so that, I love that quote that you had, change work-life balance to work-life integration.
Mm-hmm.
Was that from our meeting earlier today? I was actually, did I hear that from I've had such a long morning. I'm a super networker. I was in the rally, Salesforce Saturday starting at 6 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
So did I hear that was that from you? Who said work-life integration?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was you. Okay, great. Yeah, go figure. Goes right with this.
Yep.
I'll share that over with them. And so, yeah, I'll share the links for those references. So switch, how to change when change is hard is good. So the tip is that to make a habit, you have to plan for it. You have to actually make a change, you have to plan for it. Like, don't just say, I'm going to work out 30 minutes. Say when you're going to work out 30 minutes.
Yep.
Put that time in your schedule, because otherwise your brain is so smart, you're going to find a reason to back out of it. That's the way it works. It's the elephant and the rider is the metaphor where they say, where your brain is or I like to think of the lawyer and the client. Your brain is the lawyer, your body, your heart is the client. So it's going to do something and your brain's just going to justify it. Like, I don't want to work out. Yeah, you shouldn't work out. You've been working a lot. You've been, you got to do this. That TV show's on.
So I'd like to share, JD, I know you and I have talked about this. I would actually approach that question with caution, because it's really easy to look at what other people are doing. And it's easy to have, like, if you look at who the context of the, Melissa, you said, prioritize, or it just takes 2 minutes and you're waiting. So when you're very busy, right? When exceedingly busy, you have, JB, you have 2 small children, right? You're a 2 professional household. So both you and your husband are working a lot. You may or may not have family support to be able to do your job, do the volunteering, make dinner, do the laundry, do the things that you have to do, and then the things you want to do, and then prioritize who you're spending time with. Because what I find, and this is just, it's not something I've ever, I've known it, just it's been in my head, but, Melissa, the networking, super awesome and being interested, but there's also this pressure, right? This underlying pressure that you have to get the numbers, meet more people, do all these things or see all these people. And actually that's the wrong message, right? Is focus on Melissa, right? You're get to know the person. You cannot get to know a person in 15 minutes. I would not advise that. I would not advise that. I would not advise, because I get an influx of LinkedIn messages oh, do you have 15 minutes? I don't. I have 24 hours in the day, and who I choose and what I choose to spend those 15 minutes on is of the utmost importance, right? Is I'm going to pick, first of all, I'm not going to go high value, right? Those are my customers, right? My customers, my family, the people who I love, who love me, the people who support me. That's right. That's what gets my first attention. And then you prioritize the volunteering. I'm still serving on a board with my kids' middle school PTSO. And it's, again, the extra 15 minutes. I have very long days, right? It's I have the husband and the kids and the parents and the volunteering, right? So it's I got to squeeze some sleep in there. So books are fine. And getting advice is fine, but you have to ask yourself that question. When people are asking for your time, who am I spending time with? And that value and the interest of what I think the part of Melissa's message was, if you're going to take the time, be interested and take the time, right? Just sprinkling a little bit here and there, I feel it's like spam. It's attention spam, and it's attention stealing. And that's, right, that's kind of, it goes in the opposite direction than what I think Melissa's here is talking about, us connecting with other humans, being interested in each other, learning about each other. And that takes time. It takes time, it takes energy. And so it's, right, just prioritizing that over everything that you have, and maybe getting something that's in line with your values and what you're passionate about. So JB, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I felt like it was really worth my time to get up early and be here to support you and to join this meeting, because it's important and you're important to me. I'm interested.
That means a lot, Marisa. You've been there to support me in all the ways, and it matters so much to me.
I think that was very wise of what Marissa said about taking the time. I know that as a white male, I've been thinking about this whole idea of networking and sharing, and I'm thinking about the way that I can network is perhaps just by listening. That it's my place to listen to what other people are saying and going through, and not respond to it at all. I mean, if there's some reason why I should respond, I can. But really, I need to take more time listening and understanding. And I think that is, there is a time pressure to do that. And so taking the time to say, it's okay for me just to sit and take it in and listen and try and understand some other person's perspective, I think is very important, especially in this time.
Mm-hmm.